Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Melissa Siegel. I'm a professor of migration studies, and this is a channel about all things migration. So today we're going to continue with an update on the Ukraine. So on this channel, you will have seen over time that we try to keep you updated every few weeks or so on the current situation of displacement of Ukrainians, given the current context. So what we're going to talk about today is we'll talk about internal displacement, so people that are displaced within Ukraine, and international displacement, or people that have been displaced outside of Ukraine, obviously particularly within the European context, and even more specifically within the European Union context also. Now, most of the data that we're going to be looking at here are the most updated numbers that we currently have as of June 20th of 2022. Most of the data is coming from the International Organization for Migration through their internal displacement report, which is a general population survey that just went through round 5, or their displacement tracking matrix. And of course, there's also data from UNHCR, or the UN Refugee Agency. All right, I'll make sure to link everything and the sources in the description below in case you're interested in learning more. Now, let's directly turn to internal displacement and what do we know about internal displacement. So as of the 23rd of May, the numbers that we have were that a bit more than 7 million people had been internally displaced since the beginning of the conflict in February. Now we can break that down a little bit more. Here you can see a breakdown between those people who are currently internally displaced, those people who have not been displaced before but are currently thinking about leaving, and also the number of returnees as far as IOM knows, again, as of May 23rd. So you can see also that we've had a number of people that have also returned to Ukraine over time, and this can be for a multitude of reasons, including coming back to also fight in the conflict. Now, of course, if we look at those people who have been internally displaced, we know that more women than men have currently been displaced. That makes sense given the current policies of the Ukrainian government, also where men of able-bodied age are expected to be fighting in the conflict. Now, if we look at where people have been displaced from, so here you can quite clearly see that the majority of people have been displaced from the eastern part of Ukraine, followed by Kyiv, then the northern region, the southern region, and to a much lesser extent, the center and the west. So, however, data on where IDPs are currently residing is present in both the Ukraine Internal Displacement Report and IOM's Displacement Tracking Matrix tool. So this interactive map that you see here, which I'll link in the description below, of course, shows us the estimated number of IDPs living in each area and each region. Now, previously I showed you where IDPs were coming from. Here you can see where IDPs have been displaced to. So where are they currently residing? And you can see that they're spread more across the country, with plenty in the west, central, also in the east, north, and to a lesser extent in the south and in Kyiv. Now let's turn our attention to international displacement. So this is displacement across a country border. This is information from UNHCR as of June 16th. And these numbers are usually updated on a weekly basis. So this is what we know right now. So individual refugees from the Ukraine that have been recorded across Europe are currently around 5 million people, a little bit above 5 million people. Of course, I've talked about in previous videos that there's also the temporary protection directive in the EU that gives temporary protection to Ukrainians within the EU. Currently, we have almost 3.5 million people who have actually registered under that scheme within the EU. Additionally, we know that there have been 7.7 million border crossings coming out of Ukraine. And interestingly, 2.5 million border crossings going back into Ukraine. What we can see here is that sometimes people are returning, maybe they're also coming back again. There can be a number of reasons that people are coming across the border. And of course, you can see numbers here also since the start in February 28th, 2022 until today. You can see here on these graphs both border crossings from the Ukraine and border crossings to the Ukraine over time. Now, let's look at the top countries where people are being hosted. And if you look at some of the previous videos, you also see how this has changed over time, because sometimes people have first, for example, gone into Poland and then moved on to another country. Again, as of June 16th of 2022, we can see that 1.2 million people are currently based in the Russian Federation. However, the figure for individual refugees is an estimate, since there are potential further movements that cannot necessarily be factored in. Getting correct information out of Russia is not always the easiest. Now, if we look at other countries where, and particularly European countries where Ukrainians are currently based, we have more than 1 million who are in Poland, more than 90,000 in Romania, more than 85,000 in the Republic of Moldova, more than 78,000 in Slovakia, and more than 24,000 in Hungary. So these are really in the neighboring countries. And if you look at some of the previous videos, you will have seen at the very beginning of the conflict, these countries were hosting, in some cases, even more. But now we see that some people have actually moved on. So if we look at the countries that are not necessarily directly neighboring the Ukraine, we see that Germany is now hosting over 700,000 Ukrainians. The Czech Republic is hosting 373,000 Ukrainians. Italy is hosting over 100,000, as well as Spain. France is hosting around 87,000. Bulgaria is also hosting around 80,000, with Austria also hosting 71,000. The United Kingdom hosting 70,000, and the Netherlands hosting close to 65,000 Ukrainians now. And with this, the top 10 in Europe and other European countries is also rounded up with Lithuania, who's also hosting over 50,000 Ukrainians. So one thing that is quite interesting that we can already see since the beginning of the conflict is that we're starting to see more of a dispersal of Ukrainians around the different European countries, not only staying in the neighboring countries, although we do see that Poland is still hosting the largest number of people. Now, I hope that just gave you a quick look at the numbers, what's going on with regard to displacement of Ukrainians currently. If you're interested, stick around and check out another video where I'm going to give you an update on the current European directive and how countries are actually implementing this temporary directive and what Ukrainians can expect or what they are receiving within many of these countries. Now, if you have more up-to-date information, obviously, please link that in the description below. If you have questions, let us know. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the videos that we upload every week on different migration issues. And I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.